My beloved FreeMelons, welcome back to the FreeMelon Society, where we will systematically unshackle you from the lies and deceptions of a diseased culture. Welcome back, thank you for joining me. In today's quick lecture, we are going to be tackling the subject of moderation. We always hear this term everywhere, especially and particularly in dietary debates and dietary arguments. Moderation this, moderation that. Oh, as long as you're a moderate, then you'll be healthy. Oh, if you do this in moderation, well, that's the best way. You don't want to be too extreme, you don't want to be too restrictive, you don't want to be excessive, you want to be a moderate. And that is the key to success, life, happiness, wellness, yada, yada, yada. On it goes. Everything in moderation. The slogan is posted everywhere. People have it as their reading statuses for their Facebook and for their Instagrams and for everything in moderation, blah, 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 blah. Today we are going to give you another injection of FreeMelon truth, and we are going to pierce through the lies and deceptions of this axiom of moderation like a jouster through a warm sheet of butter. So first thing we're going to do is we're going to define moderation, and once everyone's thoroughly insulted, then we'll give you some other definitions and explain why exactly that is what it is, and hopefully your lives will be made that much the better from here on. Okay, here we go. If we go onto Google, the most reliable source of information out there, and we type in moderation, what we're going to find is moderation is being defined thusly: a quality of being moderate, restraint, avoidance of extremes or excesses, temperance, right? The act of moderating. Sounds right? And it is. It's not an incorrect definition. The problem is that we apply that definition erroneously. We apply that definition to everything, right? Now, of course, our focus is diet and eating and lifestyle behaviors. So that definition of moderation, it needs some tweaking and it needs some additions in order for it to apply suitably to the practice of diet and eating and lifestyle habits, okay? I'm going to give you my definition of moderation. And again, this might be offensive, but this is, of course, coming from a place of love and an obligation to the uplift of humankind and human evolution, and, of course, your health and well-being, to a degree that you didn't even know was possible. So, in terms of diet and orthotrophic terms, let me provide my definition of dietary moderation. Dietary moderation is a misused and convenient excuse used by the average uninformed eater to justify and rationalize incorrect eating or living behaviors that one does not have the sufficient maturity, discipline, strength, or awareness to change. This occurs because often the stimulation of the behavior is more important than all other moral or biological considerations. Oh, snap! I'm not excluding myself from this definition because everyone is in a constant process of uplift and betterment and self-betterment. I'm not perfect, right? I still have to recognize this and make the appropriate changes in my life too. So don't think I'm here sitting on my high horse, not practicing what I'm teaching you, okay? So moderation is basically an excuse that you use to continue doing the things that you do so that you can free yourself from the burden of any consequences of those behavior. You want to continue to do things that are destructive and imagine that they have no consequence. So if I'm going to share with you the truth about moderation, we have to tackle a couple more definitions. We have to understand what exactly nutrition is, okay? This is very important, so please pay attention. So if we're going to understand what moderation is in terms of diet and proper lifestyle, we need to define a couple of terms. The first thing we need to define is nutrition. What is nutrition? What really is nutrition? Nutrition is the sum total of all the substances that can be taken into the body that fulfill the primordial requisites of vital existence to the organism, okay? Now, that doesn't just imply food. That includes everything that the vital organism requires to fulfill its requisites for life. Fresh air, sunlight, food, and water. All of these elements are what constitute nutrition. Nutriment is the individual components themselves. So nutriment would be an apple, a banana, a nut, a seed, a vegetable. These are nutriments. Air is a nutriment. Sunlight would be a nutriment. Let's tackle another definition. We're going to use our friend Google again to pull out this simple definition. Let's type in poison. Okay, what is the definition of poison? Well, if we go and do a quick Google search, we'll find that poison is a substance with an inherent property that tends to destroy life or impair health. So, we also need to define food if we're going to make this a consummate understanding, okay? So, food is any substance that can be transformed into living structure. These substances can be taken up, digested, and absorbed by the cells, which can be further changed into muscle, glands, brain tissue, nerves, bone, etc., etc. So any substance that can be taken into the tissues, that it can be incorporated into the maintenance and optimal survival of the organism, is food. Any substance that cannot serve this function is poison or waste. I repeat, any substance that cannot be transformed into bodily tissue, or anything that does not serve under the definition that I gave of nutrition, is waste or poison, same thing, and must be eliminated from the body. There are no exceptions to this rule. The confusion lies in what is food, okay? And now that is a subject that I tackle in my foundation courses. If you haven't seen my foundation courses, you must go back and you must watch those series of 3 lectures, and that'll clarify that right up. But that's the confusion, right? So let's proceed from here. So let's say we take poison, and now we apply this to our cultural term of moderation. For our example, lighter fluid. I take some lighter fluid in a glass, I drink it. What happens? I vomit immediately. Now, because the lighter fluid is a substance with an inherent property that tends to destroy or impair life, my body has rejected it because my body understands nutrition. My body understands that the lighter fluid was not food, it was not nutrition, and thus it was eliminated. That being said, would it be rational to assume that I can take only a very small quantity of this lighter fluid, which is poison, which my body must reject because it does not fall under the criteria of nutrition or food? Can I take this small bit of poison into my system and expect that it contributes to the health and well-being of my system? I'm pretty sure that you can answer this question for yourself. The answer is no. Poison is not nutrition. Poison is not food. It doesn't matter how minuscule an amount of poison I take into my system, my body will recognize it as poison and must eliminate it because it is disease matter and I can't do anything with it. There is no such thing as material taken into the body that is other than food or other than nutrition that is good for you in moderation. There's no such thing. How much rape is too much rape? And what amount of rape constitutes a moderation in rape in my life or in the sustainable development of a healthy community? How much rape is good in moderation? There's no such thing. There's no such thing as rape in moderation. Every single instance of rape is evil, is immoral, and does not constitute the proper functioning of a community.
Since Sweden opened its doors to mass immigration, rapes have skyrocketed by a staggering 1,400%, with most of the culprits being migrants. Gang rapes of girls and women are becoming commonplace. Migrants are responsible for 90% of shootings in Sweden. 4 major welfare organisations in Germany warned that Muslim migrants were raping women and children at a camp in Hessen. Did you see CNN, BBC or Sky News cover this? No, they were too busy obsessing about a Hungarian camera woman who tripped someone up.
How much murder is murder in moderation? Is there any acceptable degree of murder? How many times should I hold a match up to my arm and burn my arm in moderation in a degree that's healthy? None. How much punching in the face of random neighbors that live in my building is healthy in moderation? None. None of these things contribute to the healthy collective functioning of a community. And thus, there is no minimum that can be considered healthy or beneficial. It is only the complete absence of them that is the absolute best. Yes, you can still have a community that has some murders, some deaths, some rapes, some arsons, some whatever, but that doesn't mean that those things are good or those things contribute to the best functioning of the community, the best functioning is the absolute elimination of them. Now, let's translate this into diet. Is there such thing as smoking in moderation? No, smoking does not fit the requirements of nutrition, nutriment, or food, and thus is a poison, and every single instance of smoking must be eliminated by the body and constitutes a systemic poisoning, a systemic toxemic effect in the body that must be eliminated, that burdens the system, burdens and taxes its resources of elimination. It checks digestion, it checks excretion, and it impairs the whole functioning of the being, whether temporarily or long-term, if the habit is continued long-term. There is no such thing as smoking in moderation. If you smoke, then you are being imprudent. Then that is a stupid behavior. I know this is kind of offensive to smokers, but you know, I mean, what excuse is there for that type of habit nowadays, you know? What is alcoholic drinking? And this is a big one. People will advocate alcohol and consider it good for you in moderation. I cannot stress this strongly enough. Alcohol is a poison. The effects of alcohol are very obvious. You take enough alcohol in one sitting, and it doesn't have to be very much, and you start to feel the effects of it. It is a poison. Alcohol is one of the products of fermentation. It is a byproduct of metabolic function that results in material that must be eliminated from the body at all times. There's no such thing as alcohol that is beneficial to you. So taking in alcohol in small amounts does not constitute moderation in a way that is good for your system. Taking in a little bit of alcohol only means that your body is minutely taxed and burdened and toxified, right, for a short period of time until you can regulate, until the toxins are moved out of the system. But it doesn't mean that it's good for you in small amounts. Okay, you have to understand this. Now, the final piece of information that I'm going to share with you that will make this as clear as day. There is such a thing as moderation. However, in terms of diet and health and lifestyle, moderation only applies to the substances that contribute to nutrition and food. We have to talk about the phenomenon of excess. You can eat and live in excess of only the things that are requisite of life and vital function. What do I mean by this? Water is essential to life. You can drink too much water. You can have an excess of water. You can drink water outside of moderation. Apples are a nutriment. Apples are food. Your body can use apples for proper and optimal function of the vital organism. Apples can be eaten in excess. Apples can be eaten outside of moderation. You can eat in excess. You can have too much sunlight. Sunlight is an absolute requirement for good health of the vital organism. You can have too much sunlight. You can lie in the sun all day and completely burn your skin. This is an excess of sunlight, but you do need sunlight. So drill this into your mind. Moderation exists, but moderation only applies to the requisites of the vital functioning of the human body and of the animal body. You can have excesses of sunlight, food. You can have sexual excesses. You can have pleasure excesses. You can have sensuous excesses. You can have all the things that are necessary you can do or engage in excess. What you cannot engage in excess of are things that do not serve the vital functioning of the body. Even a minute intaking of those substances or performing of those behaviors that are not required are things that should not be done in the first place. There is no such thing as excess in those things, okay? I can't eat sand in moderation. There is no such thing as eating sand in a dose that is beneficial for me. I don't get a better life by eating only a grain of sand every day. No sand is beneficial for me. Thus, I cannot have a moderate intake of sand, okay? So you people that are under this delusion of everything in moderation, there is no such thing as everything in moderation. Moderation has to be particularly tailored to a specific set of circumstance and definitions for it to apply. You can't just blanket term moderation to everything. Because if that were the case, well, then I guess there's no such thing as cause and effect now. I can just do whatever the hell I want as long as it's in moderation. Well, then that's healthy. I'm just gonna go rape as many babies and as many turtles, blow up as many cars as I want, as long as I do it in moderation. Yeah, that's how it works, guys. I'm gonna take in a little bit of rat poison every week, and it's fine because it's in moderation. I'm gonna smoke a little bit because it's in moderation. No, all of these things are poisons. None of them should be ever taken into the body, ever. Salts. If you haven't seen my lecture on salt, go watch my lecture on salt. Salt does not serve any function of the vital processes of the body. There is no such thing as a moderate intake of salt. Any intake of salt is poison and must be eliminated by the body in minute or greater degrees. You just avoid it at all times, and your functioning will be 100% better without any intaking of salt, okay? This is the truth of moderation. It is not everything in moderation. People that subscribe to this doctrine have zero understanding of true life, true nutrition, and true welfare of the human being. I hope this helps to understand. So anytime you see people falling back or relying on this tired old hackneyed platitude of everything in moderation to justify their stupid behaviors, you call them out on it and you say, I would like to correct you in this because I care for you and I would like to help you out so that you understand better, okay? Thank you very much, everyone, for joining me in this class. I hope to see you on the next session of the FreeMelon Society, where we free you from the shackles of erroneous culture. Take care now. Have a good one. Bye-bye.